How was your week? It was busy, good, blessed, tired. You didn't want to get out of bed. You had fun getting out of bed. So basically, everybody had a great week. Amen? Amen. You know, there are certain passages in the Bible who could get a preacher in trouble. And this is one of them. So I'm going to try to manage not to get myself in trouble this morning. Reverend Whitney told me that you are doing a series, especially to look at the LGBTQIA community. Last week was Gene Robinson. Today is Matthew Shepard. And at first when I looked at this reading, I was like, why did you do that to me? But the more I thought about it, the more I prayed about it, and I read the same passage in other languages, the more I understood that this was the perfect passage for the Matthew Shepard story, and especially where we are now in a community, in this country, and in the world. If you're not familiar with the Matthew Shepard story, in your bulletin, you will see, and by the way, Matthew Shepard is part of a Holy Men, Holy Women in the Episcopal Church. But you will see a brief story, extremely brief story, about him, what happened, and what it should never happen again. And we have the power for it to never happen again. Basically, Matthew Shepard was a young man that got beaten, severely beaten, tied to a pole, and left to die in the middle of a field because of his sexual orientation, because of his personal sexual orientation. So at first when I looked at this reading, I'm like, what does that have to do with it? But it does. So what's the setting this morning? This big landowner. Once again, for the past 3 weeks or more, we've had what? Landowners. Big people. Have a lot of stuff. And when they come to collect, they are met with resistance. What, right? Isn't that what, were you here last week? Isn't that what we had last week? Okay, so you're not listening to the preacher, huh? You're not listening to the readings. But that's what we've been having the past 3 weeks. Landowner goes out, tenant went to come to collect, send a slave, kill first slave, kill second slave, send son, still kill the son. So basically institutions. So today this is a gentleman that gets up, this is his son, put a big wedding banquet for the son. So basically people wouldn't have to eat for 3 or 4 days. And his guests don't show up. Now, what's interesting in the story is, how many guests do they talk about in the reading? 3, right? The businessman, the farmer, and another one. So how many guests if he had that they're only mentioning 3? So basically he invited all his friends. And nobody shows up. He sends his slave to get the friends. And they don't show up. And basically he said, you know what, I'm going to minimize my risk. Let me invite everybody. He didn't invite, he wanted to have people pick them up. Is that an invitation? It's like the police, when the police come to your house and they go, would you like to follow us? We'd like to invite you to the police station. It's the same thing. Or when you were in trouble with your parents and you go, why don't you come and sit here? We would like to talk to you. You don't say no. So these people show up. Some of them ready and some of them not ready. But everybody's there. And then the landowner, the host show up, looks at the room. The room is filled with people, and then walk over to one person and go, how did you get in here? Duh, they invited me. Actually, you sent out people to invite me. Let's say that the person didn't know that, well, I was invited. So imagine that you show up. I'm sure that doesn't happen to people in Ridgefield. But it does happen to people around the world. You show up at a nice restaurant, and they tell you what? Jacket is required. What do? Usually, they have a set of jackets hanging. You may not look good in it, but you're going to wear a jacket. This is not the situation. The situation, how did you get in here? Duh, I don't know. What? But what surprised me about this story is we do not hear anything about the reaction of the rest of the other guests. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I'm sure if something had happened, at some point in the gospel, somebody would have told us something about it. Because the same banquet shows up in Luke 14. Different way, same banquet. If you were there, if you were one of the other guests that got invited at the last minute, what would you do? Come on, let's be honest here. What would you do? Okay, let me say it another way. You go to a restaurant and somebody is not appropriately dressed, what do? Ignore them. What else? Okay, I leave it to you in your mirror. You do ignore, but sometimes you go, oh my God, don't they know where they're coming? Or you go to a wedding and you see somebody that you don't like their dress, it's a tacky dress. Especially if it's a multicultural wedding. The other side is never happy how the other side got dressed. I'm Haitian, and when I'm having a party at my house, and I will admit this, depending on what kind of party, I will tell people how to dress. Because if I'm having a birthday party at 8 o'clock at my house, my people are coming in evening gown, because they're not going to get out until 3 o'clock in the morning. All my American friends are coming in polos and nice dresses. Amen? Okay. So I have to tell them, I have to tell my side, no, got to simplify it. I got to tell the American side, do not come with jeans. So what did the rest of the people do? Nothing. Those who knew better didn't do anything. Those who didn't know but kind of dressed up for it, was appropriate for it, even if they had to go borrow it, was like, at least it's not me. And this poor guy is standing there speechless, embarrassed. And what did they do? Nothing. Brothers and sisters, we act like that. We see injustices. We see people malinformed. We see people don't understand how this culture works. And we don't do anything. Or better yet, we do a minimum of what needs to be done so we could feel better. But we never go all the way. Amen. Because it's hard. It is extremely hard to stand up when there's an injustice. And this was an injustice. This was an injustice committed by the host. You knew the last group was not going to be ready for the wedding. You told them go out into the streets. So you knew, but you did it anyway. Those who were appropriately dressed, because they knew about it, some people were just look, stood there and did not do anything. They too were speechless, but for the wrong reason. You could be speechless and it's good. Silence sometimes is golden, but sometimes speechless is not good. Speaking up is the right thing to do, even if at your own risk. And then there was the slaves. Because the slaves knew about their masters, right? The master, right? Yes or no? You know me, so I'm expecting some kind of answer. Listen, I didn't change. I don't know how long it takes for me to come out here. I don't change, okay? The slave didn't do anything because the slave knew where they were taking the group and didn't try to fix it. Because if they had tried, this master would have not made that comment. Once again, people remain silent for the wrong thing. Let me tell you why I think this illustrates the Matthew Shepard story. You know, some of you know that I have a good sense of humor. I am old enough to remember LGBT. Okay? And then it was LGBTQ. And it was now it's LGBTQIA. I'm going to be very honest with you. I have members of my family that are gay. And I turned to him and I'm like, listen, make up your mind, okay? Because I can't keep all this up. Because every time I have to remember what letter is for what. And the person sat with me and said, well, get used to it. Because the society created the reason why we need to have this. If the society did not create this space, there will be no need to have this string of letters because we are not accepted. So we need to individually identify ourselves to make sure that people see us and they know that we too are people and children of God. But the last part that I like is the A. What does A stand for? I lied. People that are not LGBTQ, but are respectful and supportive of the struggle. So all the A's, where are you? Good. Now, when you're out in the community, make sure that you are identified as A. And for me, an I-light, you don't have to agree or disagree. It doesn't matter your opinion. But Episcopalians, let me tell you something. All of us are supposed to be A's. In the Episcopal Constitution, you cannot discriminate for any reason. That's why I, a black woman, is standing here today. Because of the canon of this church. Because of a baptismal covenant, we cannot discriminate against anyone. With God's help, I will respect the dignity of every human being. So as long as if you you're an Episcopalian, you don't belong to any of the first one, you're an A. You may not want to take up the mantle, but that's what you're professing that you are. Because whether you agree or not, you should never stand for an injustice in that community. Amen? Because if all the people in that bar, because this is what happened. He went to a bar. There were two gentlemen that was bothering him, and there was some previous history with it. Nobody's kind of clear on it. And there was some kind of misunderstanding, according to what the survivors, the accused, says. And one of them thought that he made a pass, and that's why they decided to beat him. Now, I've seen bar brawls. This was beyond. This is taking him out of the bar. So you're telling me that all these people sitting in the bar didn't see that, right? What happened to the community? What happened to the wedding guests? Everybody saw the injustice. Everybody could have predicted what was going to happen. But nobody did what? Nothing. Everybody was speechless. And I imagine the scene that some people were even cheering and roaring. We, here as Christians, especially Christian in the Episcopal branch of the Jesus movement, don't have the option of remaining speechless. You can have your opinion. You should have your opinion because this is the Episcopal Church. We don't check our brain at the door. But your opinion should never justify not standing up for an injustice. Never. Not in the Episcopal Church. Not if you believe in your creed or more specifically in your baptismal covenant. So, brothers and sisters, there are some Matthew shepherds in your community, in your environment, in your family. I hope that those Matthew shepherds never suffered the fate of Matthew Shepherd, the famous one. I could talk about the institution. I could talk about the injustice of a person having so much money that he could decided to invite the whole crew of people outside. I can talk about all that. And not make me feel good. But what I want to specify today is we, the community, especially this community of the Episcopal branch of the Jesus movement. It is in our canons. It's also in a baptismal covenant. We do not have the option of remaining speechless. We don't have the option of remaining silent. We are called to help. So what would the community should have done? Let's say that nobody saw that he didn't have the proper attire. At the moment that the host said, how did you get in here? Because I'm sure the moment he said that, everybody turned to listen, right? Because that's good. He's talking and talking to him. Somebody should have done something. You know how when you go to a party or the person doesn't have the appropriate clothes, somebody forgot a tie? I've seen that done, where the person just came with a shirt and somebody else had a shirt and a sweater. They gave them the sweater so he could look better. Somebody should have done that. I'm not putting it on the host. It's his house, his rules. And it's easy to blame the host. It's easy to blame the institution, which sometimes deserves the blame. But the institution is made up by us. So if you want to change the rules, we need to change. If you want to have the LGBTQI to have a better community, a better standard of living, we need to change. We, allies, need to change. That is our calling. That is our faith. And it's a wonderful place to be. Amen.